So the benefit of using this 2-2 head... Fucking shit. Fuck's sake. Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today we are back in the UK in my garage. Unfortunately not in Florida anymore. In today's video we are going to be carrying on with this, which is the Volvo S40 engine. If you've been watching the channel, you saw when the bottom end was built some time ago now in May for my birthday. So it's been a little while since I've touched this, but I'm going to get it completely built up, rebuilt the head now with stiffer valve springs and things like that. So that's now ready to go on. I've got new cams in there now, so I've had to shim all of the solid lifters, which took a little bit of time, but we got there in the end. And basically all I've got to do is clean up all of this stuff so it goes back in there. I'm going to do that now, and I will catch up with you guys in a bit. So when I came to put the pickup tube in and put the sump on, I discovered I did not have any of the O-rings and seals that go in the bottom of the block here, even though I've got a full engine rebuild set from AJ USA. For some reason they don't come with them. They also don't come with the O-ring, which sits in the back of the water pump. I'll probably discover that I've got a few more things missing, but I won't know until I get there. So I went onto eBay, ordered a Sump O-ring set, and they came from Parts Monster, and these are the ones that they supplied. So if I just drop these ones in here, you see that one fits okay. This one just a little bit too small for my liking, and I don't want that to go in there. So yeah, I wasn't completely happy with these. I've spoken to a few members on the S40 X40 group, and they have run them successfully in the past, but I wasn't particularly happy with them. So I went to Volvo, picked up some genuine ones, and these ones you can see have got flat sides to them, so they sit much nicer, and this is actually the right size. This is much larger than the ones from Parts Monster, and it fits in there a lot better. Obviously being genuine, I am completely happy with them. So I'll stick a little bit of oil around them, put the anaerobic gasket round, and then sit the sump back on. So there we go, sump ready to go on. So all I've got to do now is put all these bolts in. Done. Although I'm not done, because whilst I was talking each one of these up, and I was doing them gently, I've gone and cracked the sump. So over here you can see there's a crack in the sump, and when we come under here there is a gap in there, and my fear is that when I put this on, it's gone and picked up the O-ring, lifted it up out of where it should have been, and now it's lifted it proud, and this is now stressed on this corner. And as I talked it up, it did feel odd. It felt like the bolt was going to strip actually. Bastard. So I'm going to take all that apart. Hopefully I can repair this, because obviously I can weld it. Not ideal. Hopefully I've not destroyed those O-rings as well. Right, so I'm really annoyed with myself. This is where the crack is, so you can see it's just there, and it'll be on the inside, so this whole corner piece wants to come off, and the offender is here. You can see there's a witness mark of something has hit the bottom of the pan, and if we come over to the block, this stud here is the culprit. So I am really annoyed with myself because I have done this, and I was forewarned, because here is a conversation between myself and a guy called Jasper. He has got exactly the same crank bolts as me, and there we go, he is referring to an interface there and having to Dremel a little divot in there to make clearance. Unfortunately this conversation back in July, so I completely forgot about it, and yeah, I didn't notice it when I put it on. Now I've got to repair this thing, which is a pain because I've just welded these things on, so it's not like I can grab another pan and stick it on, because the spare one that I had is in the skip. So there we are. Sump is finally on the engine. So now I can flip it over and start building the rest of it. Right then guys, we are finally ready to put our head onto this block. Now I am using ARP head studs and I've just put these in finger tight at the moment, and then I'm going to be torquing these up to 90 pound-foot, which is slightly less than what the current information on the ARP website says for these. It currently says 105 pound-foot, but there have been reports of people using the 105 pound-foot and cracking these blocks. There seems to be no reported issues with running the 90 pound-foot, so that's what I'm going to be doing today. Hopefully I don't encounter any issues. It is an upgrade over standard bolts, which are torque to yield, and they can lift the head at higher boost pressures, which I intend to run. One thing which I fortunately did catch before I put the head on is the block was missing this piece here, which is a little diverter baffle which slots in here into the water jacket, which encourages the coolant to go all the way around the cylinders. Had I not remembered that, then I probably could have run into some overheating issues and premature failure of this. I had actually lost this. I looked everywhere for it, posted up on Facebook, and Danny Chapman came to the rescue and let me take one of these out of one of his spare blocks. So that's caused a little bit of a delay. Talking of Danny, he's actually provided me with a genuine Volvo head gasket, which is for the T2 engine, which this one is the 1855cc, which means I don't have to use this AJ USA one. That'll serve as a spare if I ever need it. So thank you very much, Danny, firstly providing this and for coming to the rescue and providing this baffle. Boom. So just as an update, this is the T2 head. I have rebuilt this with stiffer cat-cam valve springs and aluminium retainers. Other than that, it's fairly standard valve sizes on here. The benefit of using this T2 head is it's early enough not to have VVT, and it's late enough to have solid lifters, which is imperative for running higher RPMs. The hydraulic lifters are considerably heavier and they also struggle with the higher RPM, so shouldn't have any issues with this one. I'll give you a bit more information on the cams and lifters when I get round to it. For now, I'm just going to torque this down. So the head's all torqued up now. Next job is to drop in all the lifters and the cams, get the cam cover on, and then I can time the whole thing up. I mentioned that these were solid lifters and the new cams are regrinds. So here is a lifter and that is a shim. So this shim here just pops on the bottom of this lifter, and then that makes that the correct height that needs to be. Now it's taken quite a lot of work and quite a lot of time to get this all measured up, and basically it involves getting the cams in there, getting the feeler gauges in there to measure the distance between the top of the valve stem to the underside of the cam. You get the total of that, depending if it's the intake cam or the exhaust cam, determines how much clearance is required. On these it's 0.2 at the front, 0.4 at the back. So all of these have been measured up and they're ready to drop in. It's a good job I checked, because you know, almost fucked that up. This is not the inlet side, this is the exhaust side. Fuck's sake, Andy. Engine's back to front. Yeah, I was just looking and there's marks here for 1 and 8 and I'm putting in 9 here. Jesus Christ. Right, flip that around. Right, it's now time to drop in the cams, and these are Piper regrinds, which I've mentioned earlier. One thing to note about this is these are phase 2 cams and this is a phase 1 head. It's been said that this isn't possible because these phase 2 cams have this end for VVT. Now I've not actually been running VVT on my old phase 2 engine because I had a blank pulley which kind of gets rid of the VVT. So these are kind of useless, all of these oil galleries in the end here, because they're not actually doing anything. I've been told that it doesn't physically fit into a phase 1 head. I'm going to do it anyway, just to prove people wrong, because I'm pretty sure that this is going to work. So as you can see, the cams do physically fit in the head. The thing that this head doesn't have that these cams normally require is obviously all the oil galleries. There's a slightly different casting here, but it won't affect me because I'm not using them anyway. So long as I have the correct cam seals, it should work perfectly. These seals are for a phase 2, so it's got a small one and a large one. On a phase 1 they're both this tight. It is possible. The main differences between phase 1 and phase 2 heads, like I mentioned earlier, is the VVT and the fact that these have got solid lifters. You can't normally interchange the cams. It's a lot of work, but that's what I've gone and done. So it should work. All I've got to do now is put the cam cover back on. It's not really a cover, it's quite an integral part. It's got all of the bearing caps built into it, and there's 40 bolts that hold this down. Got to put some liquid gasket on here, got to put the O-rings in here, and then drop them on, torque it down. Of course, me being me, I've not kept the standard, it is slightly modified. As you can see there in the middle, that is normally quite a small vent for the head. I've increased that to 25mm because I intend to run larger diameter pipes and a larger crankcase ventilation system, which I'll be building from scratch. The reason I've done this is in the past, running Beak Boost, I have popped one of these seals out from a lot of crankcase pressure. Now that might have been down to the ringlands being cracked on the pistons, I don't know, but I thought at this stage I'll increase the size and hopefully get rid of that worry altogether. Oh, there we go. Amazing. So they've all been torqued up to 13 pound-foot. Now there is some sort of sequence for this, but it's generally start from the middle, work your way outwards, and you don't want to be cranking it all the way up to 13 pound-foot straight away. You want to kind of settle it down, get them down on the dowels and seat down equally, and then start torquing all of these up. Main thing is this wants to go down equally, because if you just crank up the first one in the corner, it's all going to twist and you'll probably snap the end off. There's a lot of bolts to go through, 40 bolts to torque up. Takes a little while to do, which is why I started with the impact gun. Obviously don't just crank them down with the impact gun, it just saves a little bit of time. Winding it down till it touches the cam cover and then go with the torque wrench from there. So that's all done. Hopefully the cams still turn. There is a slot in the end of the camshaft here which enables you to spin them round. So I'll give that a go and hopefully they spin freely, and that'll hopefully prove that the phase 2 cams do actually fit properly into a phase 1 head. So there we go. Marvellous. Cam spin. Next job is to get this thing timed up. So this thing is starting to look like an engine now. So I've got the cam seals in here. I've got a seal in the back here. This one has a cap which goes on the back, which I've not installed yet because there's a cam alignment tool which goes in here for me to time it up. So all I need to do is put the cam sprockets on, put the timing belt on here. The crank is already lined up to the timing marks for us to go, except these are at the office, so I'll be back in a minute. I've just got to go get those. 2 secs. Right, so I'm back. I picked up the cam wheels. That is the non-VVT side, and this is the blanking adapter which this bolts to. I've just chucked a bit of satin black on there because it had a little bit of surface rust, so that's why the sprocket's not bolted to that currently. Before I put those pulleys on, I'm going to put the plastics on to cover up all the timing gear, put the tensioner on, put the pulleys on, and then hopefully time this thing up. Right, all the plastics are on, the cam pulleys are on, the idler's on, everything is ready to go for the cam belt. Now this is loose on here and this is loose here, so I normally set these to the midpoint and this to the midpoint here, which gives me a degree of flexibility. Now the scary thing is this is not keyed to the cam at all, so this can rotate as much as you like, and that is that is actually how it's meant to be. The only thing that's stopping that from spinning is this bolt, which gets torqued up to, I think it's 90 Newton meters. I will double check that. But yeah, that bolt goes in there, and that is basically the only thing that prevents that from spinning, which is a scary thought, but that is just how it is. So I've put this plastic on because there are notches here and here, which lines up with this yellow line here. There's not normally a yellow one. I put a pen mark on there, and there is a little notch here, which again, this doesn't have to line up, but I like to do it so I can see where it's meant to be and make sure that nothing has slipped along the way. So time for the belt. Right, I'm just going to nip this up a little bit just to stop this from spinning. Just makes life a little bit easier, because that is the point where I want this to be, and it should all work out correctly. There we go. There we go. Voila! Just checking that they do line up. What I've got to do is torque this one up. The cam shouldn't spin because it's locked at the back with the cam locking tool. Get that torqued up and Bob's your uncle. Just to confirm, this is 90 Newton meters as I thought it was, 66 pound-foot. Yeah, and that's the scary part done. Turn the engine over, make sure the tensioner stays in the right place, adjust that if need be. But yeah, hopefully this is pretty much good to go. One thing you must do, obviously, which I almost did, remove the cam locking tool before you attempt to turn the engine over. Definitely do that, because that could be bad news. So there you go, turned it over a few times. It's definitely making some compression because these bits of tissue keep popping out where the spark plug should be. I'm going to tighten up the belt a little bit more, just so it's in the middle there. But all the timing marks still line up, turned over. There's no locking against some valves, so yeah, pretty happy with that. And there we go, guys. That is pretty much a complete engine. Head is on, it's all timed up, ready for the ancillaries to get bolted on now. So I think that's pretty much it for this video. Hope you've enjoyed it. Apologies if it was a little bit techie, a little bit Volvo geeky, but I really do need to get this done, and I thought you guys might like to watch it. So guys, if you have liked this video, please hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already done so, and I hope you have a very, very happy new year. See you later, guys. Blah, 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 blah.